eyes are not viewers. They're also projectors that are running a second story over the picture that we see in front of us all the time. Fear is writing that story. Now, fear is going to be a player in your life. You get to decide how much. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practical. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying that you can ask the universe for it. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. As far as I can tell, it's just about letting
about 45 minutes
what you want and working toward it while letting go of how it comes to pass.
or seconds.
Why not take a chance on faith? Not religion, but faith. Not hope, but faith. I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire and faith leaps over it. You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world. And after you walk through those doors today, you will only ever have two choices: love or fear. Choose love, and don't ever let fear turn you against your playful heart.
Okay, that was an inspiring message by Jim Carrey. The last person I thought for an inspiring message, but I listened to it this morning. I thought, hey, I like what he's communicating about handling your fears, conquering your fears, and just moving on in life and aspiring to be something, doing what you want to do. This is the Francesco Abbruzzino Show, or the Scoop National News Show, the Uncensored Report Show. I go by a million different names. I used to have a set time to do this, but because I'm not making any money on it, I had to change that and just say, okay, daily I'll put out a show. So if you're watching this, you're seeing it pre-recorded. If you are on Periscope, I am live on Periscope, so you're hearing it a little bit raw. There's only like 5 people on there, it looks like right now. And you can go on Periscope right now. Just go to Twitter under the Scoop Alt News, and you'll see the link there for it. I'm not really advertising this show. I think YouTube sends it to one of my Scoop pages. I think it's the national news page, so you can see it there. And then I do share it on my wall. This is a one-man show, just like I do all my Facebook pages, website, everything, and this videotape. It's all one-man show. Let's go ahead and get started off with some of the national news coverage. Just look at some of the headlines. I might opine. Yesterday, if you were watching the show, I made a mistake, and what I tend to do is I get talking about a subject, and then I get carried away, and I continue to talk about it, and we don't really cover a lot of the stories. I think I only got to cover like 2 of them that were on there before I started just going off and got sidetracked. This is a story I just put up. Why is there so much anti-police sentiment out there? It's an article I just wrote, and we're going to actually discuss it a little bit down the road. Hillary Clinton, this title is a little deceiving. It says "Time to Wet the Bed," and it's got a picture of Hillary Clinton. The biggest problem that Hillary has out there right now is just the believability. A lot of people just don't believe her after Benghazi, after this whole server issue. And I think I've heard 3 different stories on the whole server thing, and the last one yesterday was just, hey, I'm sorry. But it wasn't a sincere sorry. It was almost a sorry because, oh my God, I might be in big trouble here. And I don't know if Obama's just throwing her out there and saying, hey, she's a scapegoat, we don't want her in there, get rid of her. But then what are the options? Joe Biden was on, what talk show was he on last night? Let's see if anyone out there knows. Nope, nobody's responding. I can't remember the talk show. And by the way, if you're on Periscope and you have a question, you can shoot it. If I see it, I'll respond. If I don't see it, try asking it again. I think it'll pop up here on the left-hand side of my screen that I'm looking at. I got a secondary computer. Back to Joe Biden. He was on a talk show last night. And it was pretty emotional. I watched and he was upset over when he started discussing his son's death. And he basically, it almost came across as though he wasn't really going to pursue this. And a lot of people are saying this may not be worth his while, because even though Hillary, in the public's eye, isn't looking that great right now, she's basically got the votes that's going to get her in to be the Democratic nominee. I don't know if that's a good thing for the Democrats. It'd be a bad thing, just like it would be for us to put that idiot Jeb Bush in office. We don't want him leading our ticket, but you know what? He has the money and he has the name, and knowing how Americans are, it'll probably be Jeb versus Hillary, unfortunately. Donald, I like a lot of stuff Donald Trump says out there. Not necessarily agreeing with his politics, like we should take Syrian people, the people from Syria, and then he flip-flopped on that and said, hey, it's not our problem, but I like his honesty, or what the perceived honesty, that he's coming out and telling you how it is. I think I was talking to a buddy the other day, and we were sitting there discussing it, and he said, you know what, the one thing I hate about these politicians is the believability. You think they're playing you. And he goes, and this guy's pretty much liberal, and he goes, you know what, I actually like Donald Trump because I feel like he's being honest with me. He's telling me how it is. If you don't like it, don't vote for me. So Hillary's got a large mountain to climb. Wish her best of luck. I think she might get the Democratic nominee because there's only her, Bernie Sanders, some other people, but it's going to be a tough battle. Just put something out there about police body cameras, and it covered on something that my local sheriff here covered on, and just so you know, the guys, this is unscripted. I don't have any notes in front of me. I do research, which I'll pull up in front of me, but it's all unscripted, and I'm just winging it. The police body cameras, though, Tom Knight is a sheriff here locally in Sarasota County, and essentially he communicated that his biggest concern was privacy. And at first I thought, you know what, he's just saying it's privacy so that he doesn't have to strap a camera onto his guys and show us what's happening when he's out there. Because at the same time, Sarasota Police Department was involved, and I think they had 40 units or something like that they were going to trial out for a year. But he brought up a good point, and this article sort of touches on it, is the whole privacy thing. Because when you're out there filming it, it becomes public record. So when you go into someone's house and you film that they're hanging out on the couch or they're doing this and doing that, it's all public record. And it becomes available to anybody that's out there. Now, this opens up a whole new issue because the public record thing, that's a tricky one. What happens is, and we proved this here with the ACLU. They did a public records request with the Sarasota Police Department on some of their trials that they had undertaken, and it came back and essentially said it's going to cost you $800. And the local ACLU guy was like, "Whoa, what do you mean $800?" And I'm not sure the specific amount. It was some outrageous amount though, and they said because we got to go through each section of this film. We got to black out a lot of stuff. We got to basically dissect through it. And it brought up a whole new issue, which I never thought about, is that whole cost. And I can tell you, I do, as someone that does the Scoop News, I do a ton of FOIA requests. A lot of them are largely ignored, which is something else I'm going to cover, not today, but down the road. And so it is an issue, and that's something the taxpayers don't want to pick up. And also the other issue with the whole camera thing is the storage, which I didn't hear Sarasota. I haven't heard anyone talk about. It's something I researched when I did when I was doing my radio show, and I covered it. Basically, a third party will take and store that data, so it's not stored in the police location in the police department with all the other evidence. It's stored off on some cloud, which is hackable. We all know that clouds are hackable. Is that something we want? And it brings up a whole other concern, which I believe I talked about on that radio show, and I probably will cover again if we ever delve into it more. LA, they're talking about new crime and how to fight it there. A lot of this stuff is just, your body after a night of not sleeping. Everybody knows you need your sleep. Obviously, it's key. That I do have that the Kerry video up there. What else? What is killing us in smoking? I tell you what, my mom, she smoked all of her life, and she, for years now, she's been coughing up blood. She's on oxygen. She's just hacking away, can't breathe. She's got all the symptoms, all the issues that someone that's been smoking for 40 years will have. And she was still sitting there just puffing away. I believe a year, 2 years ago, she stopped it, and she's taking that pill. I forget what it's called. My wife tried it, and it made her nuts. But it's really hazardous, and I wish my wife was not a smoker, which unfortunately she is, and she does about a pack a day. So that's some other stuff. We got Black Lives Matter. There's a lot of different stories up there, which we'll cover later. This one is interesting. I put up Office Depot refuses to print anti-Planned Parenthood flyers. And, I asked for thoughts. I only had one person that commented on it. A lot of people don't like to get into it. But what brought this up is, and what brought up this whole, doing this video on what is this called? I always forget. Periscope. I was actually sitting out here the other day, and I was bored, so I'm sitting there. And with Periscope, if you don't know, if you're just listening to this, you can go around and basically select anywhere in the world that somebody's broadcasting, and it's live. And I think it was the Carolinas, and it said something about political talk, so I clicked on it, and it was a young lady. She was about 15. And she was just going on and on about the concerns and issues she has with abortion and the whole process. And I tell you what, she had a ton of trolls on there, and they were just spitting out kinds of stuff out to her. But she held her own, and it was pretty impressive that she did not cave in. She held tight to her convictions. That gave me the idea, I'll just Periscope on here. It'll give it a live shot. Yesterday, I was watching a show. I watched a new show, Alex Jones. And he had a lady on there that was doing a hearing before some committee. I think it was some Senate committee. And she was talking about how she was going through the abortion. Her birth mother, was going through the abortion process, and how she was all burned with the process of how they burn you and do all that. And I forget all the scientific medical terms. And she survived, but her body was fully burned. She just gave this really heartbreaking story, which I might put on the site later. I tried to stay away from that stuff on here because a lot of people have different varying opinions. My daughter asked me, Dad, what's your opinion on abortion? I said, I'm not for abortion. I go, but I'm definitely not for late term. If there is an abortion within the first month, maybe second month, if a young lady's raped, if there's incest involved, and I said, I'm flexible, but I still am hesitant about it. And the one image that sticks in my head a lot is one of those Planned Parenthood videos where they pulled the child out of the mother and the child was moving. Now, it was a late term one, and that I'm totally against. And it just amazed me, and I wonder what else is out there. What else is happening that I'm not aware of? And, but I'm not for abortion, but in the first month, 2 months, what's better for a child? What's better for a child or a lady and a woman? Is it better to have them go through 9 months carrying this child and then have to give it up for adoption? Are you not possibly destroying her life because it was from an incest relationship or a rape? It delves into some deep questions, which I'm just I'm tossed on. And a lot of this stuff, it's like climate change. I was listening to some documentary on, what was it? Let me switch the screen over here. I was listening to a documentary from Vice News, and they pointed out how a lot of the glaciers were melting. And I was like, wow, this is some good information. It's making me think. And then I went back and I heard some Republicans discussing on it, and they gave a different spin. And a lot of times it drives me crazy because you got the Republicans here, the Democrats there, progressives here, the neocons there, and they come out with different stories, and they're both almost selling it in almost a believable format, and somehow we got to dissect through all that and find out what is the real truth. And it's sometimes difficult because they're not totally honest in their argument, or they're just hitting on one area and not the full picture, which you have to tend to look at. And that's why a lot of people always ask me on my national news. I put stuff that's pretty leftist, like Mother Jones, Slate.com, even a lot of Daily Beast is pretty much to the left. And when I put stuff from the right, I'm almost hesitant because I lean a lot to the right. And I don't want people on there saying, oh, you're just doing this, you're a right-leaning freak, blah, blah, blah. And but what the reason behind it is why I try to put the left and the right is so that you get a good understanding. If I just put stuff up on the right, I don't think I'm being fair. Now, a lot of times I'll put stuff up that are from the left, and I'll just sit there and cringe. I'm like, why the hell am I putting this stuff up here? What is this editor thinking? What is this reporter thinking by saying this? still, I'll put it up there because I think it's important for all the information to be out, so that we can make the appropriate decisions on all this stuff. Okay, sorry, I got sidetracked. You'll notice, because I'm doing multiple things, I get sidetracked a lot. My article, you can read it. It's up on the Scoop National News, and basically I talked about the police and why is there so much bitterness and hatred towards them. And I looked at the different things, and basically, it's basically that the way they come out, the police departments are organized like along these military lines. You got your rank, your file, your command. They carry their guns. They can arrest you upon cause. They're given discretion on if they're going to take action against you. And I think a lot of people resent that. They don't like the fact that this one person who could be mentally defective is going to go out there and make decisions like pulling his gun and shooting you down in your back. It's just that when you're an individual with that kind of power, there is always that potential for abuse, which I think concerns a lot of people. In practice, police are usually left to just, investigate and discipline themselves, which I have a concern with. And I ran into an issue once, a small issue. I was in a city council meeting, and there was a lot of seats there, but I was standing, I was trying to get pictures, I was reporting on it. The guy comes up to me, and he says, "You can't stand." I said, "I can't stand, I'm up against the wall." He goes, "It's a fire hazard." I'm like, "Fire hazard? You got 10 feet in front of me." And he's like, "It's a fire hazard." And I'm like, "Well, you're standing up right in front of the door. Isn't that a fire hazard?" And he said, "No, I'm working." I go, "Well, I'm working here too." And he just wasn't buying it. So I wrote to the city council. I said, what's your policy on standing? Are you not allowed to stand? Is this something new? Because I've done it before. They said, "No, there's no policy against it. No, none we know of." So I wrote the fire marshal. I said, "Okay, is there a policy against standing?" They said it's a fire issue. And he said, no policy whatsoever. So I wrote the chief. I'm like, "Chief, what's going on here?" I don't know if this guy knew who I was because I'm pretty well known here, and he just decided to throw his power around a little bit, or if he did know who I was, he was just abusing his power. And I wrote the chief. Chief said he'd get back to me, and he didn't, which goes into the other issue. They're policing themselves, and they're not getting back to us. So the perception is that no action's being taken when these officers are doing this stuff. And most of these officers are outstanding. I have a great relationship with the officers here. Most of them are great. You're going to have bad apples. And that's what I covered here. A lot of it is just the training. They go through this training with the mentality that we are the enemy. Citizens are the enemy. And a lot of times, back to that other thing on the citizens, we as citizens don't feel like we're being heard. It's my story against him, us versus them. If I go in, I got my tattoos everywhere. Now I cut my hair, I look a lot more presentable, but usually I'm wearing ripped jeans, a t-shirt, tattoos everywhere. I go into a police station. Are they going to believe the officer or me? And that's why a lot of more, and you'll see based upon my article, most of the time they're going to believe the officers. Unfortunately. Fortunately, it could be a good thing because a lot of times civilians are going to lie their asses off. But read that article. I think it's worthwhile, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. The other thing, key reasons why the nuclear deal didn't work. This is an article I put out. It's got that bonehead Boehner. God, they need to get rid of him. I know there's a move right now to try to get rid of him. Guy is such an idiot, and I really wish the Republicans would stand tall and get him out of there. But basically, they're out there, and Boehner's threatening to take Obama to court, claiming he broke the law because he's not providing Congress with any documents that are pertinent to this whole Iran deal. Well, he didn't provide all the documents on Obamacare. You guys, they didn't even read Obamacare. They didn't even read the TPP. Where was all this before? But now it's suddenly, I don't like it because I can't read everything on the Iran deal. So basically, there's some separate agreements out there, and a lot of people are concerned as to what these agreements say. Do we have to adhere to them? How will they impact the whole inspection process? And Obama administration saying, "Hey, look, there are no second documents," but then other sources are saying, "Wait, there are." The Nuclear Inspection Agency is saying they are, and we're not going to release them because they're confidential. So who's being honest with us here? And if we're going to vote on this, shouldn't we see all documentation? Now, I hope this bonehead Warner stands tall and says, no, we're not going to take this, Obama, but I'm not confident in it. We saw him cave on TPP. The guy's an idiot. The other thing, too, a lot of world powers say that it will eliminate trade, eliminate oil trade and financial restrictions that are applied against them, which will basically be $1 billion bonanza, meaning a ton of economic growth to them. The other concern is they're worried, hey, do we really want to do this and take this this Iran and basically this terrorist organization and be on the terrorist list and say, oh, you know what, we're changing all that. We're going to go ahead and give you $1 billion in economic relief through releasing all these sanctions. We're going to trust you with these inspections. I think there's like a 24-hour notice or 24-day. It says a process within which Iran can delay inspections for up to 24 days. But Obama said, oh, no, that's not going to happen. Sure, it's on the paper, but well, no, it's not going to happen. But it goes into all kinds of key issues there, which it was a very interesting article. I encourage you to go ahead and look at it and read it up. I'm going to take a quick break. If for you out there that are listening, you'll hear some. Sorry, I got to get to the right screen. Basically, you'll just see a picture and hear some music while I pull up some more documentation, so that I can. A, I'm old. I'm 50 years old, so I forget a lot of this stuff. And B, it helps me be a lot more factual when I'm reviewing it. So give me about 30 seconds, and I'll be right back. All right, folks, we're back, and this is Frankie Abbruzzino with the Scoop National News Show, brought to you Monday through Friday. So whenever I put it out now, it's no longer at 11 o'clock. You can see a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, the different articles, at thescoopnationalnews.com. There's also a link to it on my page, my local Scoop page, which is the ScoopRadioShow.com. Check them out. Read some of the great articles out there. Got some deals, coupons, and stuff that you can take advantage of. This is a one-man operation. Like I said before, if you're new to the show, I do everything myself, from setting up the recording, doing the recordings, running the Scoop pages, doing the Facebook, writing the articles. And for about 5 years, I wasn't making a dime. I started putting some ads on the page, so now I make a couple dollars. But nothing off this show. I just do it just to get a communication out there, and I enjoy doing it. What we just got through talking about some stuff, and now we're delving into the whole Syria thing, and it's going to play into the whole migration thing. And the reason I want to talk about it is there's been some revelations that have come out regarding ISIS, regarding Syria, and the different things out there. And some of it came out with WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, and he's got this new book, the WikiLeaks File, and basically he talks in it about something that's been out there. We've heard it if you've listened to alternative media, where essentially the White House, the powers that be, the United States, have been planning for a while to overthrow Syria. And this was way before the uprising that they had in 2011, and that they had always all along planned this proxy war. I call it proxy war because essentially it's the United States, Saudi Arabia, Israel fighting against Iran and Russia in this proxy war. Iran and Russia are essentially backing the Assad government, which they want attacked, and we're going to cover it. They've now seen Russian troops in there. Russia's working on building up an air base in there. The Iranians decided they're sending over an elite group. That came out in the papers yesterday to help Assad's army because Assad is losing some ground there. Then we got us over there, and we're supporting, for God knows why, the moderate rebels. Well, that's what Obama calls them, the moderate rebels. There's no moderate about these guys, folks. There is not one thing moderate about al-Nusra. El Nusar's there, the Fars, ISIS. They all work in conjunction. They've all said, we will not fight ISIS, but we're over there. And I forget what the original number is. I have it on this document, which I'll pull up in a second. And, Obama was like, oh, we're going to kick these guys, these rebels. They're moderates. They're going to go in there. They're going to fight. And we're just going to show ISIS who's who. And we're going to kick their ass, basically. But that's not happening. They're kicking Syria's butt right now. So, back to this wire. They had this wire, went out in 2006, and it basically discussed the planned force to go in there and overthrow the Syrian government because Assad was not playing ball. He was not playing ball the way the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia wanted him to. Now, you don't hear that with the established media. They go out there, they'll tell you about the Arab Spring. They'll say it was a spontaneous popular reaction to some tyrannical governments out there. They won't mention anything about the U.S. involvement. And you got to be crazy if you don't think the U.S. was not involved in the Egyptian Mubarak overthrow. And we all see the great government that came from that, the Muslim Brotherhood, and now it's being ran by the military. It's better than the Muslim Brotherhood, but it's still not a great situation. And Mubarak was no angel. The guy was an idiot. He should not have been in charge, but I tell you what, he controlled the country. He was probably the better choice, just like Gaddafi was probably the better choice in Libya. Now, would you rather, because Gaddafi had changed his ways in the last few years. He was a nut job. He was a tyrannical dictator. Some of the stuff he used to do to the young kids there and the women, it's just, the guy was a freak show. We get that. I know that. But it was a better option than what we have now. Basically, I think we have 5 extremist groups that are fighting to control Libya. And that, what's better? Having Gaddafi there, who was appeasing us, he was starting to work with us, or having these extremists there? And a lot of times I wonder if we just move too quickly. I think I talked a little bit about nation building yesterday. One of the big, if you look at back in history, Germany and Japan, nation building was great. We stuck around. It was a process we went through. Iraq, Libya in some ways, Afghanistan, we went in, we bombed the hell out of them, we kill a bunch of people, and we leave. And we leave the place a mess. It's a shame. Saddam Hussein, he was probably a better option than what we're seeing right now over there in Iraq. Right now, Bashar Assad. What's better, having this ruthless dictator in control or having ISIS in control? You tell me. And I agree. Neither one is a good idea, folks. They both suck. But one's got to be better than the other. So anyways, I got this evidence that basically the United States went in there and fomented this whole thing, and their whole goal was to overthrow Assad all along. Probably to overthrow Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, all those guys, all those characters over in the Middle East. And then we wonder why they hate us so much. So then Obama came in. He said, hey, we're going to build this allegiance with these moderates. And what has it led to? We've carried out, according to this article, 6,700 airstrikes. And it's costing us $4 billion a year. $4 billion. Yet, we see no sign of ISIS being defeated. All we see is ISIS getting more territory. We continue to see beheadings. We continue to see Christians being persecuted. And not just Christians, Protestants, anyone that does not follow the Sharia law. We continue to send over our drones, our warplanes, in this 4-pronged strategy to go in there, conducting the systematic campaign of airstrikes. Increase the support for the fighters on the ground. How much of our supplies has gone to ISIS instead of to the rebels? They got counterterrorism. That's going to help stop the ISIS attacks there. And then, of course, the humanitarian assistance, which we're always there. We're always trying to help with the displaced groups. You're seeing that with Obama's announcement yesterday. Hey, yeah, we'll take 10,000 Syrian refugees. and I covered it yesterday. Look over there. Look at Saudi Arabia, and you'll find the article somewhere on my Scoop National News page. They have over 1,000. I think it's 10,000 or 1,000. I forget the number. Tents, air conditioned. Yet they're taking no refugees. Saudi Arabia is over there leading the attack against Syria. They're causing a lot of this displacement of the refugees, and they're not taking anybody in. So we got this whole operation Inherent Resolve, where we're going in there, we're flying all these sorties. We're going to knock ISIS back to the Stone Ages, right? But it's not happening. We've killed a great number of people. They don't know the exact amount. They think it's somewhere around 8,500, but they're not sure of that. It's costing us about $9.9 million a day, which is about $7.7 billion as of August, according to this article. So what do we do? Do we keep it up? A lot of the rebels that we did train, and there were just a small number of them, have gone over to join ISIS or al-Nusra or other groups. So we've given them all these weapons, all this training, and they've gone over to the rebel opposition. The only people the only group that has helped us there has been the Kurds. But what's happening there? Turkey. Turkey finally lets us use their airspace. They've flown a couple sorties. But they're bombing the hell out of the Kurds. Why? Because they don't want the Kurds to have their own state. They don't want the Kurds to be strong. We saw this back in the Iraq War. In northern Iraq, where the Kurds are. So the only group that is helping us, the only group that is making any advances there, is being shot to hell by the Turkeys. Thank you, Turkey. Maybe we don't need your help. What do you say? I don't know if we need Turkey's help if this is the way they're going to help us. It's like, who needs friends when you have or who needs enemies when you have such great friends, right? Now, and on this article, they got this poor picture of this poor migrant, this baby that's drowned. Whoa, what's that? Hold on, let me see what we got going on here. Don't you love when that happens, when you get something playing in your ear? Okay, I found it. There we go. All right. So let's continue talking a little bit about Obama and what he's doing. So like I said, he's going to take in 10,000 refugees. Like I said yesterday, there's no real way to go through there and say which ones are extremists, which ones aren't. You give them what do? You give them a questionnaire. Are you an extremist? Oh, no. I'm a Catholic. Okay, you're in. There's no real way to controlling that. So how are we going to vet these refugees that are coming over from Syria? Now, you might say, oh, come on, Frank, give us a break. There's, the refugees. Of course, the refugees are coming over here. We got it. We're in the United States. We have to help them out. We got to do the right thing. And I'm on board. We need to do the right. I love doing the right thing. I love helping people out. But then you run into situations. Italy, I put this up yesterday. Italy's helping people out. Yeah, you got them throwing human feces at the poor Italian lady. They're upset because they got to sleep in a nice tent. And they get 3 square meals a day. And 8 people have to fit in this tent, which is pretty large. Granted, it sucks, but what's better? These guys are from Northern Africa. Do you want to go back to your war-torn country with your tyrannical government where you were fighting from day to day to eat? You were worried about catching Ebola? Whatever the case is. But it amazes me that a lot of these refugees come over here and automatically they want us to take care of everything. I put out an article yesterday, and I'm going to try to hit on the numbers. I think illegals accounted for, I'm not going to put a number on it because I don't know a specific number. They accounted for over 50%. I think it was over 60% of the illegals that are here in the United States are on welfare. And we're talking about food stamps and Medicaid primarily. But that's not the only welfare, folks. Florida, where I live, we get an abundant amount of refugees. We're like one of the 4 or 5 states that are getting a lot of the immigration that's coming over from South America, Central America. Now, these kids have to go to the schools. Who's paying for that? We are. The federal government's not coming in. The states have to pay for it. And our kids have to pay for it too, folks. Because they've gone from 10 kids per class to 15 kids per class. They've gone from this kid that doesn't really do well in math and getting a lot of attention to not getting a lot of attention because they got to help the immigrant that doesn't speak English. And I'm not anti-immigration. I'm pro-legal immigration. My dad immigrated here. So I'm all about immigration. Take them all in. Legal immigration. But even legal has some questions. I believe the number was over 60% of the legal immigrants here are on welfare. You know, and I hear a lot of the politicians, I think it was Trump and some of the Republicans, they're like, well, we got to dissect through them and get the right kind of people to immigrate here. Yeah, that would be great in theory, but that's not going to happen. In theory, all this stuff is a good idea, but it doesn't always work out that way. So I don't know how he got on immigration, but back to Syria, you know, so Assad's got these, the Iranians coming in there now to help him. And it's an elite unit, an elite combat unit, and primarily Iran's sending them in there because they're concerned about the Hezbollah. Hezbollah's been getting their butts kicked. They're supporters of Hezbollah, and so they're sending in troops, they say, to help there. And, you know, if you used to listen to my radio show, you know that Iran was sending in troops, elite troops, over to Iraq, and it wasn't being reported in the major media, which is one thing that just drives me crazy. You know, I love all my national news. I love putting all kinds of stuff on there because I just want it all out there. But it drives me crazy that they don't cover a lot of this different news out there. It's always slanted. I remember once when I was doing my radio show, I was with a group, and they're a bunch of financial gurus, and I said, you know, I told them, yeah, I watch CNBC. They're like, well, you can't watch CNBC. Well, why can't I watch CNBC? It's not always accurate. If their advertisers or sponsors don't want something said, they don't really say anything. If you get a lot of the investors on there, they're cheerleaders, and you really got to look at different stuff. So they educated me. And this is a while ago, and I started looking at all the different things, and you realize how bad major media is, CNBC, even the CNBCs, the financial shows out there, and appeasing their sponsors, you know, the advertisers out there, and even the governments out there. And so you don't see a lot of the reporting. One thing that really, like Ebola is a perfect example. When I was doing my radio show, I was reporting on it when there were just like 2 or 3 people. And then it became 50, and then it became 1,000 or whatever. And then finally major media mentioned something about it. And then they disappeared again. And then they came back and said, oh, no, now it's at this number. But it's like, why aren't you guys reporting on that stuff? On Ukraine, Assistant Ambassador Nuland. I think it was the Russians, taped a phone call where she was sitting there planning the overthrow of the pro-Russian government in the Ukraine. And talking about the puppet government she wanted to put in. In the same conversation, she was talking about the $5 billion that they were funneling over to this rebellion group. And yet, none of that hit the airwaves. Nobody knew that, I think it was 1996, that the Russians had an agreement in 1996 with the Ukraine that they could house, I think it was 26,000 troops there. Yet, all you hear reported is, oh, the Russians have troops there. Of course they do. It was part of the agreement. But it amazes me how they don't communicate everything to you. And that's why I tend to throw as much information up there as I can. I want the right. I want the left. I want to try and read everything and try to decide, okay, where is the truth? And a lot of times it's so gray, it's hard to find out where is the truth on a lot of this stuff. You know, you got this paper here. Who is this? This is the Beacon. They're saying the Iran combat units are there. It came out of Jerusalem. Now, do I want to believe that? Here's some issues with it. You know, their Beacon's a little right-leaning. The neocons, they want war. They're all about fighting war and building up the militarization, the military-industrial complex, funneling money over to it. War is a good thing. It brings in a ton of profits for these guys. It's out of Jerusalem. They're Israeli. Israelis are obviously pro-ISIS, pro-rebellions, anti-Assad. So are they fabricating this? Are they being upfront? Is it totally honest? So I'm sitting here and I'm reading it. And I'm saying, okay, they're saying Iranian troops are in there. I haven't seen anything to dispel that, to make me believe it's not accurate. And you got to hope that these guys are being honest and upfront with you. But I don't know. I would hope so. So anyways, according to this Israeli reporter on this Republican-leaning paper, the Iranian troops are there in support of the Hezbollah and in support of the Assad government. You do with it what you will. Do you take it? Do you believe it? I don't know. Now, another thing that's got me concerning, and a lot of news came out about Syria. This one's really disturbing. And this is where you have, I think it was 50 intelligence agencies or 50 individuals, 50 intelligent analysts. And they work out of the U.S. Military Central Command. And what they were doing is complaining that the reporting that they were turning in on ISIS and Al-Qaeda regarding Syria, and I'm sure other areas, was inappropriately altered by the senior officials. Now, this particular one I'm looking at is the Free Beacon, again, a right-leaning publication, and they're slamming, obviously, this looks bad on Obama, so that's why when I put this out there, I try to put the name of the paper so you realize whose it's come from. I think I did that on my local page yesterday. I put something out about zero tolerance, and I said, I don't know if you guys know this on the national page. I assume they do, but Slate is left-leaning. Here's their thoughts on zero tolerance. This one, though, I think came out in left and right-leaning. So it's not just some Republican rag out there that's looking to slam Obama. It was originally, this was originally reported by the Daily Beast. And the Daily Beast, in my mind, is left-leaning. Now, they do some right stuff in that, but they're primarily leaning, I'd say, more towards the left. And they're the ones that put this story out originally. And they basically said that the intelligence that's being served up is inadequate, that the ISIS threat is greater than the administration's leading people to believe, and that a handful of trained Syrian rebels is not enough to get the job done over in Syria, and that they're being annihilated on the battlefield, betrayed by countries like Turkey, which I explained with the Kurds. You got millions of refugees now fleeing there. You got Russian troops deploying troops and planes there. And they're all exploiting this crisis there. But nobody seems to care. You don't hear the press talking about a lot of this. And it's not, like I said, it's not just confined over to Syria or the Middle East. This stuff impacts us here in the home front. We're seeing that with bringing in all these refugees now. And what other information, what other intelligence reports are being changed or altered to appease the powers that be? How will that impact us? Should we be concerned that accurate information that the analysts are digging up is being changed by their bosses to communicate the message that the administration wants put out to the public? This is stuff that keeps me up at night. I wish I could sleep more. All right, we're going to take a quick break so I can pull up the next document, and we'll be right back. All right, folks, I'm back. This is Francesco Abbruzzino with the Scoop National News, covering the national news headlines that are out there. The next thing I'm going to talk about is, and I went to see the video, and the video was taken down, so we'll just talk a little bit about the article. It came out by the Activist Post, and basically they touch on garbage trucks, and this is something I believe I've talked about before, how garbage trucks will now be taking your license plate numbers. And is this an invasion of our privacy? You know, and a lot of times locally I was talking about cameras out at the bathrooms, at the jetty, at the pier. People said, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you care? It goes a little bit beyond that, folks. And I sat there and I said, let me ask you this to the person I was talking to. When you take a shower, do you shut your shower curtain? Yeah. Well, why? You don't care if there's a camera down at the gazebo. Why do you shut your camera? If you're not doing anything wrong in the shower, want more privacy. Well, so do I. When you're at home, do you shut the blinds on your window? Yeah. Why? I want to be able to watch it. Well, I want my privacy. Exactly. Privacy is an imperative concern with a lot of these cameras that are going around, with this government now taking on garbage collectors and saying, hey, we need you to look at these tags. Who's going to collect this data? Who's going to hold this data? They got these garbage trucks out there. This is happening in San Francisco. They're filtering all this information. They're getting this license plate information. And it's not just the garbage truck. I think the street sweepers will be doing it too. They cost us, the taxpayers, about $15,000 each. They go out there. They're getting the streaming data. Law enforcement touts that, hey, it will help us find vehicles that are stolen. That's about it. Is it worth giving up your privacy to find these vehicles that are stolen? To me, it's not. And they always do this. They always play on our security. Like the Patriot Act. It was playing on our security. We're doing it for your security. TSA, the pat-downs, the excessiveness they go through to pat you down and the different processes they have. How many terror threats has the TSA stopped? Not one. I was watching a video yesterday where a guy went through. He was getting patted down. He decided to start filming it. The TSA guy came up to him and said, hey, look, you can't film us. And he's like, what are you talking about? I can't film you. I can film you just like I can film a police officer. The Supreme Court came in and decided this. And the guy's like, well, not without approval. And he's like, no, you're wrong. I can't do it without your approval. You need to research the law before you get up here and try to exercise your power. Tell me I can't do something. He's like, what about all these cameras all around here? You're being filmed everywhere. Yet you're going to come here and tell me I can't film you and try to take away one of my rights? And the guy, David's like, the reason I am filming you is to ensure my rights aren't abused. The reason many people film cops is to ensure the rights aren't being abused. And on my document, if you go to the Scoop National News that I wrote about police, you'll see the significant drops at all levels since cameras have been introduced. Now, I get that whole privacy thing that Sheriff Tom Knight and that one article I put out today, I forget who published it. I get that concern about privacy rights. It's a legitimate concern. But what we need to do is find a way to balance between not violating privacy, and I'm sure they can weed through that before they send out the information to any FOIA request, ensuring our rights aren't being violated. And as an officer, he should be happy that, hey, I got this camera, and this person can't come back saying I did X when I didn't. They look at the camera, and it's helped a significant amount of cops. They've gone back to this footage, and the cops have been validated. Hey, you're good. You didn't do anything wrong. Films can be bad, too, though, just like I was talking about yesterday's show. If you just look at the film, like with my daughter breaking up the fight, they thought she was in the fight. She wasn't. She was breaking up the fight. So films can be a little deceiving. I'm very conspiratorial on everything, as you can see. This next thing we're going to talk about, it's about a 3-minute long video report. It's pretty interesting. What they do is they dissect through this barbershop thing. What happened is a lady went into a barbershop. And I used to go to a barbershop when I was in the Navy. They got the razors out there. It's a place a woman would not want to go to get her haircut. Well, this lady went in there and she decided, well, I want my haircut. And he's like, look, I don't have the instruments to cut your hair. And she said, well, basically came out and said, well, I'm suing you. Now the guy's getting fined like $750 because she ran and said some stuff. But, what about Shapes? I can't go to Shapes Do I want to go to ships? No. And they touch on that in this video report. So let me get to this screen, and let me start the play, and we'll be right back.
To cut the hair of a woman. Now, this barbershop prides itself for being a place where men can get together and get their hair cut, watch sports, and not have to worry about women in the environment. But unfortunately, there was one woman who was upset by this when she made an appointment for herself and her boyfriend, and then the barbershop turned her away because they simply do not service women. Now, it's really interesting that her complaint to the Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs actually worked, and they did get fined. I personally don't believe that they should have been fined, okay? So we'll have a conversation about that. And part of the reason why is because I think it's okay to have certain businesses that target a very specific demographic. And what I mean by that is there's a freaking nationwide gym referred to as Curves that only allows women to join, right?
You can't go in if you're a man.
Men are not allowed to join Curves. They're not.
Literally, they will bar you.
It is a women...
I've never considered joining Curves, but...
It is a women-only gym.
So then how is that legal? I know you're not a lawyer and you're not a representative of Curves,
I'm not a lawyer, and I've looked into it, and I've read some personal stories from guys who tried to join Curves because they were trying to make a statement about how this is crazy, and Curves denied their applications and said this is for women only, okay? And look, I think it's fine that Curves is a gym for women only because some women feel uncomfortable working out in front of other men. That's fine. There are other women-only gyms in Los Angeles that I know about that I've actually gone to.
I didn't know that.
I haven't joined, but I went to like take a class or two. I think that's fine. If this barbershop only wants to cut hair for men, I think that's fine. It's not the end of the world. Again, I think this is just another example of people being outraged about something that isn't that outrageous.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm torn because immediately I have always liked the idea of the old school barbershop, and especially the new ones where like they give you like alcohol and stuff too, and you're in a big chair and stuff, and you get the full treatment, not like a shitty little barbershop where they just cut your hair. I mean like they still do in Egypt and European countries, that they get the full thing and they go all over. That seems really cool, and I don't want that sort of thing to die. And whatever female equivalents there are, like Curves, I'm sure there's lots of other organizations or stores that are mainly intended to be for women. Like, I think that there is something to that is worth keeping. But at the same time, while it makes sense in the case of a high-end gentleman's barbershop that it should just be men, like, if you establish their ability to do it, then other businesses will want to cut out certain types of people, and we're against bakeries not making cakes for gay people.
Right, I get it.
I mean, there's, like, gender is a protected class, just like sexual orientation is a protected class, just like race is a protected class. I'm sure there's lots of places where you could gather 8 to 10 white people that just want white people to go there. And they probably say there's tradition there too. It's hard. That's why I'm saying I'm torn.
It is a slippery slope, and it is hard, right? But if it is a slippery slope, then I think the government needs to be consistent about it. If you're not going to allow one business to be gender specific, then you can't allow other businesses to be gender specific either. And look, I already told you what my thoughts are on these two specific businesses, Curves and this barbershop. I'm okay with them being gender specific. I think that's fine. It's not that big of a deal. People are upset over something that I don't think is worth being upset about.
And honestly,
okay, folks, and you know, like she said, these people are being upset over something that's not worth getting upset over. And the lady's goal, her objectives was just to make a point. And she's made it. So now this poor barber guy, and I didn't have the video up there, some older gentleman, has to go out and equip his barbershop to handle cutting this lady's hair however she wanted. I don't know if she wanted a perm or what type of cut. Hell, I would have taken the razor and shaved her bald and said, there you go, lady. Then he would have probably faced another lawsuit. All right, you know what? I did not look when I came on. I tried to do 45 minutes to an hour. Unfortunately, I have no idea when I came on and started talking. And I got a buttload of work on the stuff that actually pays me. Pays the bills, brings in the groceries. We're gonna go ahead and cut it early today. And hopefully you're enjoying it. Hopefully I'm bringing enough information to the table and elaborating on it some, and you enjoy the whole process or show. I'm going to try to get more videos into it, try to go the full hour. And I want my goal is to be able to break down the news items. I mean, when you go to that Facebook national page, there's a lot of fluff in there. There's stuff you just don't want to hear about. Like I think I put on there some girl that had a fish stuck to her butt. It was funny as hell to me, but it's not something I want to discuss on the radio. So I'm going to see if there's a way that I can quickly dissect through that and say, here's some of the top stories. Like I do on my national page, I'll put out and say, here's the top 5 stories that were reached by 23,000 or 24,000 people. And people know, okay, these are the most interesting stories probably, and let's go to them. So we'll see what we can do there. And I think that's it. So enjoy your weekend. It is Memorial Day. Remember those that lost their lives on November 11th. I think it was about 15 years ago. I always make the Memorial Day type services. I didn't make it today because I had some work to do. So remember them in your thoughts and in your prayers. And I got a game tonight at Venice High School. I will do some periscoping from there. As long as it's not raining, I'll be at the game. And if you're local here in Venice and you want to catch it, that's great. Also in Sarasota, because I think we're playing Cardinal Mooney, which is located just up the street here. For Francesco Abbruzzino, everybody have a great weekend, and I will see you later.